So tonight, myself and Hamsananda will share our stories. Good, great. It's great to see each of you signing in. Hamsananda and I were linked together from the beginning. We came to the San Francisco IYI as youngsters, very wide-eyed and excited. And so we started out in the living room. I distinctly remember Hamsananda because she was tall and elegant and composed, totally unlike me. Our first joining was our naming. Swami Satchidananda and about two dozen devotees in Swami Sant Keshavadas were on the front steps of the IYI. And somebody said to Swamiji, Swamiji, these two don't have names. I'm not going to say our original names. But Swamiji turned to Sant Keshavadas and said, Sanchi, you have all the beautiful names. You named them. And she became Hamsa, and I became Usha. And that's where our bonding began. A few years later, we took pre-sannyas together. A few years after that, sannyas together. We served together in Yogaville, Los Angeles, Yogaville West, Seigler Springs, and now we live just about 6 doors apart in the monastery. Yes. And we fought, but we fought like sisters. So I adore Hamsananda. I absolutely adore Hamsananda. So we thought tonight in this sharing, I'm going to interview Hamsananda. Later on, she will interview me. So my first question, Swami Hamsanandaji, how did you receive your Sanskrit name?
Well, you just stole my thunder.
I stole her thunder. I'm so sorry.
Hari Om, everyone. This is more fun than a barrel full of monkeys. But at that naming, Divyananda, I was inside doing something. So there was this big crowd on the steps with Sanchi and Gurudev. We called him Swamiji then. And Divyananda, I came flying out from whatever I was doing. We had wanted names so badly for so long. And but we didn't get them. But I saw Divyananda crying. And I said, oh, does this mean we're getting our names? So she had just received her Sanskrit name, her first Sanskrit name, Usha. And so I flew down the steps, and Gurudev was across from Sanchi. Everybody else is down the steps, if you know, the front of the building. And Gurudev said to Sanchi, what shall we call her? And my heart sank because I thought, Gurudev should give me my name. And he said, he thought a moment, Hamsa. And I thanked him. I touched his feet. And then I went to Gurudev and touched his feet. And Sanchi said, that was Satchidananda speaking through me. So Gurudev did give me the name. That's how. Yeah. And it hasn't stopped being wild and wonderful ever since, has it? Okay.
The next question. Tell about swans in your yoga life and what your name means.
Okay, so Hamsa means swan, Gurudev said, and it stands for the pure self. And he said, when given a bowl of water and milk mixed, the swan has the ability to separate them, taking the nectarine part. And so you're named either close to who your Ishta Devata, your divine beloved is, something of that spiritual nature, what you aspire to, what you should grow with and become. And so the names are wonderful. So my name, that name, and so here's, let's see. I'm going to fly through the years to being in Virginia. And we had swans. Bhagavan Antal gave 2 swan, you call them swan when there's more than one, in case you ever need to have that secret information, and a whole bunch of ducks and so forth. And so what happened? Through the years, I took care of the swans for 6 years. It didn't matter if it was snowing, rain, pouring rain, if it was hot, scorching hot, or it didn't matter if it was whatever the weather was. They were, if I was hungry, they were hungry. And so I would have to go down there, and they'd be way across the lake. And I'd be coming to noon meditation at Lotus. And I'd stand there like this. What would you call them? Fred and Ethel? No. So I didn't know what. Swan, swan, come, come. And they go. That's how they swim. And I invariably would miss meditation because they were so late getting there, and you had to wait and watch them so that the geese didn't steal their food. That has nothing to do with the name, except that after 6 years, I almost just couldn't stand to take care of them anymore, but I didn't want them to be hungry. So what happened? One day I said to Gurudev, how come? And so for 6 years, I resisted taking care of them day in and day and night, no matter what happened. And we had a million situations. So what difficult ones and pleasant ones. Okay, so I said, Gurudev, how come I have to keep taking care of the swans? Is it my destiny? And he said, your name is Hamsananda and it's your destiny. And I said, oh no. And what happened was I accepted it, and I gave in. And a week later, I didn't have to take care of them ever again. So it's good to surrender right away, so you don't have to wait. This is good advice to you all. Just get it over with. All right, that's it. That's enough about the names.
It took her 6 years to surrender.
Yeah.
Okay, got that lesson. Hamsananda ji, did your parents ever meet Gurudev?
Yes, that was my dream. Maybe it's yours, was yours also. Just that they could meet him once. Well, the day they met him, let's see. So 1975 in July was the Sanyas Initiation. There were 28 of us. That was the first Sanyas Initiation, and you might remember. And my parents lived on Long Island, and I lived in California, but came east for the initiation. And my parents wanted to be with me on that day. The day you renounce all worldly attachments in your family and everything is not the day you should be with your parents. But it was my special day, and they wanted to be with me. So they drove there, and they were just arriving, and Gurudev was just arriving. The initiation had happened early in the morning. So this is maybe late morning, something like that. And Gurudev, this is Connecticut Ashram, he drives up to the front door, he gets out. There are my parents. There I am. Shaven head, orange, skinny as a pencil. And there are my parents, and there's a photograph of it, of all, the four of us. And the photograph shows me going like, and my mother has her hand in both of Gurudevs, and she's crying. You can see that in the photograph, crying like anything. And I'll tell you what she said. And my father is standing back a little bit like this, studying Gurudev, the deity or divine beloved. He didn't know that. Who is this man in an orange robe with a beard and who's stealing my daughter? I imagine that's what, so he's looking at him because I always came home tired and starving to death. So they're wondering, what are they doing to her there? So my mother said, this is what she was saying with the tears and her hand in his. I just want to thank you for making my daughter so happy. Okay, one other thing there. What? Okay, next question.
Next question.
I was going to
That was
ask
so
my own
beautiful,
question.
Hamsananda. Yes. What did your parents think of your life in yoga?
All right. So I remember they said, we just wanted you to be happy. Woo! I thought that was the highest calling that parents could have. No matter what you're doing, they just want, they wanted me to be married and have children and live near them. It didn't turn out that way, but they just wanted me to be happy. That's terrific. Now, this teeny little story, I love this. I sent my mother, when I lived at the New York IYI, after, at one point, I've lived in how many centers? San Francisco, LA, Connecticut, New York City, and here. And so I sent my mother a photograph of me. So it's 5x7. And I tell you, I don't know what was happening. We were going to see Gurudev that day, and someone took my photograph. And it was light emanating from every pore. I don't know what was going on. It was really sort of unusual. And so I sent it to my mother, and she told me that she went to the store to buy a picture frame for it. She came out of the store, she had put it in the picture frame in the store. She came out of the store to walk to her car to go home, and she held it like this with my face pointing so that anyone who came by her could see this picture. She was so proud. And you know what she said? She said, that was the photograph of someone who's seen God.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That's a beautiful story.
All right.
What was Gurudev's answer when you asked him what to do about all the fear you had?
Oh, yeah. This was at a retreat in, I think, Occidental California, a silent retreat. And that was my question. I guess I was afraid of everything my whole life. I used to say, fear governed my whole life. And I came in with that. And I was, in my yoga life, always determined that when I leave the body, no more fear, no fear, just total faith in God. That was my big thing to work out in this lifetime. So, what is this? Oh, so he said, just chant, Chidanan, Chidanan, Chidanandaham, Haralameo Master Satchidanandaham. You know that from our kirtan. Knowledge, bliss, bliss, absolute. In all conditions, I am knowledge, bliss, absolute. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, immortal self I am. And so on. And he said, yell it out. I did. That's the story.
That's a good story, Hamsananda.
Try it, try it.
Chidanan, chidanan, chidananda hum. Har halla mela masta Satchidananda hum. Okay, next question.
All right.
What was the best thing that ever happened to you in your whole life?
I wrote the questions. So this is forged or something.
Not for
It's so much
it's
fun.
So
It's so much.
genuine.
I'm having so much fun. It's lots of fun to give the talk with someone else or to other someone else's. It's lots of fun.
The more the merrier.
Okay. The best thing that ever happened to me in my life was mantra initiation. Do you want me to tell the story?
Yes.
It was Santa Cruz silent retreat, and I believe there were two. Now, I don't know which one mine was, but I started yoga in 71, and so it was before I moved in the IYI, so it's got to be the fall, September, I believe, of 71. Santa Cruz. And it's a very rustic summer camp for, cabins. Well, there was nothing, just bare board in the cabin where I stayed, bare board, and everything's new to me. Yoga is new to me. And I, like a swan to water, I loved yoga, as we all do. That's why we're together tonight. And so here we are. And this cabin just had bare board, bunks. You brought your sleeping bag and your pillow. And there was a bare light bulb with a string cord hanging down. That was it. And a window, nothing else. And you're in silence. And you're probably starving to death because they didn't give you much food in those days. So what happened? And they said, receiving a mantra and mantra initiation from the Guru it's going to be an aid to your meditation. So that was enough for me. And so there we are. There were 100 people at this initiation. And there were 10 groups. Each group, I assume, received a different mantra. And my group was the last group of the 10 groups. And it began at 4:30 in the afternoon. It was over at 11:30 at night. And they said, well, if you haven't fasted, you had to fast. If you haven't fasted too much and you need to eat, we'll give you 1 apple that day. So I got the apple. And so we had to sit there saying Guru Mantra until your group went to receive mantra from Gurudevs. Om Gum Gurave Namah. You repeated silently until the time of the initiation. And so all I wanted to do was run out and get a cheeseburger and French fries. I wasn't vegetarian until after the initiation, but I knew someday I'd come back and take mantra initiation, so I stuck it out. And you're sitting on the bare floor, and it was hard as rock, anyway. So what happened? my memory wasn't so terrific in those days. And so I was terrified that I would receive the mantra and I would not remember it. And so this is what happened. We had the initiation, which I call the best moment of my life. And the whole situation was the best thing that ever happened in my life, because I don't know about you, but my main love in my life next to Gurudev is my mantra. I love mantra repetition. It's not that I see stars and galaxies and have otherworldly experiences. I just love it. I love it. All right, so what happens? I go and it's all over. There was this whole banquet of fruit at the end, and we all were there and we would eat this fruit. It was like this huge altar, and Gurudev sat there after everyone's initiation, and we received fruit. Then it was time to go to sleep. All right, so they gave us at initiation a little envelope. I still have it. And the mantra is written on it in Gurudev's green ink in his handwriting. I still have it. So so it didn't matter if I forgot it. So what happens? It's full moon, very clear night, and we go to sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and yes, I had forgotten my mantra. But under my pillow, I put my little envelope. And the moon, just so happened, was coming through this one little window up there. And the moon was shining right on my bunk bed. And so I could take the little card out and see what my mantra was. And I'd say that's probably the happiest. But I say this about almost everything.
That's okay. We believe it and we love it every time.
And it was divine. It was divine. That's the end of that story.
Hamsananda. Okay, next story. Tell about when you had bronchitis and did not want to take antibiotics.
Oh, yeah. This is sort of neat. My hobby is the karma theory. A guest asked me at breakfast years ago, what is your hobby? And I said, my hobby? You mean like underwater basket weaving? Or what would my hobby be? I don't have a hobby. The karma theory is my hobby. I love it. Whatever happens, I see whatever happens in the world and everything. Karma, and I don't say it's your karma. No, it isn't like that. Mm-hmm. But it's fascinating. And I learned this through Gurudev. And so what happened? I had bronchitis. And I lived here, but it was years ago. So Dr. Amrita gave me a prescription. I was determined not to fulfill the description.
Prescription.
No, the prescription or the description. But she said, well, just keep it if you need it, because I tried all natural things for 10 days. I didn't get better for a moment. And so finally, I was so in bad shape. And so I was scared too. But I called Gurudev. I thought I'd die or something. Drama queen. So I called Gurudev and he picked up the phone. And I said, Gurudev, I know this is karma. I have bronchitis. I've tried all natural means. I can't get better. I have a prescription from Dr. Amrita, but I don't want to fill it because I heard that if you take antibiotics, it weakens your immune system, and somewhere along the way, you're going to get it again. Well, I didn't want to get it again. So he said, is there any way, Gurudev, we were calling him Gurudev at that time, is there any way I can purge the karma? I know this is karma. Is there any way I can purge the karma without taking the antibiotics? And he said, if you do what the doctor said, that helps to purge the karma. And know that if you get it again, that's karma too. And I just started laughing. I thought that was so funny. And I couldn't wait to fill the prescription and hang up. Imagine, you couldn't wait to hang up when you're talking to Gurudev. But that was good. And someone went and got the prescription. The day manager got the person, and I got better. And yes, I did get it again. And I even got pneumonia and went to the hospital. But who cares? You're doing, helping to purge the karma. And Gurudev said, everything is karma. That's the end of that one too.
That's a powerful story,
I know.
Hamsananda.
It could help you.
Yeah. I think everybody listening is thinking about, oh, so that's what's going on. It's my karma.
Everything is your karma.
Okay. What about boons?
look.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
Tell the story about asking for a boon.
Okay. It was my birthday. It was going to be my birthday, which is October 12th, in case you want to get ready. And Gurudev was going to be in India with Swami Lalitananda. And this was years ago, but it had been, how many years have we been practicing yoga?
51.
51 years. My first meditation experience was over the moon. And I never had another one. So I never had a bad meditation either. People say, so I don't know what a bad one is, but I know what a good one is. But I never had one. So all those years, a dry period, you're in the desert, crawling along, trying to find water. Okay, so I sent word with somehow to Lalitananda in India and saying, Lalitananda, you're the only person I know who has the chutzpah. You know what that means? To ask Gurudev, it's Hamsananda's on my birthday. This is what I wanted her to ask. It's Hamsananda's birthday today, and she wants to know, will you please give her a boon? You know what a boon is? A boon is you stand on one leg in the river for 10 years repeating Om Namah Shivaya. And then Lord Shiva appears and says, my sweet child, you deserve a boon, which is you're not doing that standing in the river on one leg to get the boon. I'd probably be doing it to get the boon, but I've never done that either. But you're doing it, and because of your austerity and your spiritual practices, you've earned this great blessing from the Lord. Will you give Hamsananda a boon? And this is the boon she wants. Will you please give her some exotic spiritual experience? I wanted something. And I remember at the time, You know the cover of the Golden Present book with Gurudev's teachings? He's sitting under a banyan tree. Well, I thought, this is about all I could think of, that a little one, Gurudev, of just like sitting under that tree, would be sitting in my palm, and I could talk to him. That's the kind of boon I wanted. Not enlightenment or something, just a little Gurudev. And so he said, he sent the message back from Lalitananda to Karunananda, who wrote it down and gave it to me. Is she still looking for those things outside herself? Mm-hmm. Tell her, some people never get those. And I went, oh no, I'm some people. I think that's it. I had to work hard this lifetime and this yoga life. And it's both feet on the ground, no frills, so that I may have pure heart and mind to know God. And, okay, so what was the rest? Ask her, is she more peaceful? And is she able to let go of things more quickly? And I thought, that's my boon. Nothing too exotic, but I am more peaceful and I am able to let go of things more quickly. But it's taken work. But that was my boon story.
Hamsananda, by the way, you are not some people.
Well,
I beg to differ. Okay, this is our last question for Hamsananda. Do you have any special words of Gurudevs that you wish to share?
Yes, two things. Gurudev said, and it was September 11th that day, and he met with people here in the satsang hall. Anyone who could get here could, and he spoke to us. And I remember he said, I'll never forget these words. Don't put your faith in fear, put your faith in God. God knows what to do, when to do, how to do, and where to do, and it's all for good. You may not see the good right away, but ultimately it's all for good. So I could base my life on that. I'm going to say the one other thing, which you may have heard me say this before, but here it is again. July 13th, 1996, Gurudev said, if you have complete faith in God and his dealings and his will, you don't have to worry about anything. It's all his will, it's all his will, it's all his will. It's all for good, it's all for good. Keep this as a sacred mantra. If you don't like saying his, you can say her. It's all her will and it's all for good. 2 lines. Try to keep it posted everywhere in your room. Your life will be safe and sound, trouble-free. You will have nothing but peace and success in life. Om Shanti.
Jai Hamsananda.
Okay. Your turn.
That was so beautiful. The quote that you selected, special words to share.
Yes.
I need that. Would you read it again? Would you read
Which
it
one? The first one?
God knows what to do, when to do, how to do.
I can write it down too.
I would love that.
After, not right now. All right, let's see.
God knows what to do.
Don't put your faith in fear. Put your faith in God. God knows what to do, when to do, how to do, and where to do, and it's all for good. You may not see the good right away, but ultimately it's all for good.
Isn't that beautiful?
He said it.
That. So now you know why I adore Swami Hamsananda. She did transcription of Gurudevs' lectures for years. And I think that the words went into her mind, her soul, and shaped her. I used to be so jealous that she would spend hours daily listening to our Guru's voice and being shaped by it. So. Okay, now
It's your turn.
It's my turn, watch out.
Okay. Oh, no, those are mine. Wait a minute. Here they are. Why did you decide to take sannyas, and how old were you?
My situation is very unusual. I see Parman Barcel, he would remember. I was living at the Berkeley IYI, and the word came that Swami Satchidananda would be giving monastic initiation. And the IYI was in an uproar every night, sitting up late, processing, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. But not me. I went to bed. I said, I'm getting married. I'm going to have lots of kids. That went on. For weeks that went on. And the deadline was coming to submit our application. For some reason, one morning I woke up and thought, hey, of course I'm taking sannyas. Of course I am. I never went through that kind of yes-no process. However, I had my struggles. And when it came, that was for the pre-sannyas initiation. And when it came time for sannyas, I wasn't so sure. I was the last one to put in my clothes to be dyed orange. Okay, the car was already running. The driver was about to pull away. The clothes were piled in back. I had to run up waving my hand to get my clothes dyed orange. It was the night before our initiation. And even when I went into the ceremony, I thought, oh, am I doing the right thing? Those boys look so cute. Am I doing the right thing? But what happened is Swamiji gave me the name Divyananda. And I had heard that name a few years prior. When Divya Goldman was named, I was backstage and I heard the naming, I heard the explanation of the name, and I thought, that is the best name. That's the best name. And I thought, only somebody like Divya Goldman, because she was glorious in every way, could deserve such a name. And as during this ceremony, as each name was given, usually, like Hamsa became Hamsananda, Satya, Satchidananda. The name coincided with the original name. So I thought I'd be Ushananda. When he announced my name, Divyananda, I was an explosion of bliss. Somehow, evidently he knew that I loved that name above all names. That was my real moment of initiation. And that bliss lasted for months. It was that powerful for me. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
I was 29.
Okay, what are the core teachings of Swami Satchidananda?
You know, I wrote these questions. They're awfully hard. How on earth did I put myself to such a test? The core teachings. The essential thing is service. Service and selflessness. And he wanted us to manage our egos so that our own needs were put on the back burner or put aside in order to look after others. Now, for me, it was a very difficult balancing act because I overwork. I still overwork. And I've gotten a lot of scoldings about it. In fact, last week I shared about it, how he looked at me once and he said, your conscience should tell you when you've done enough, when he saw me exhausted. Another time he said to me, work done when you're tense is basically useless. So to be serviceful, but still be peaceful, healthy, grounded, centered, it's a hard task. It's a hard task. But that is what he asks of us, a very balanced life with the focus being making ourselves of use to others. And he would say to us, the Swami should be the humblest person in the room. He said, I chose this color because it's the most easily visible color. People should see that orange and know they can come to you at any time and that you will be willing to serve, willing to look after them. It was on his letterhead, the dedicated ever enjoy supreme peace, therefore live only to serve. So I feel this is his essential foundation, to dedicate our lifespan not to satisfying our own hopes, dreams, and desires, but seeing that we are useful during our entire time on planet Earth. It's a high bar. What other hard questions do I write out?
Okay. Give some examples of the other disciples and how you learn from each other.
Oh, well, Swami Hamsananda.
But not me.
Oh, no.
As an example.
I can use you.
You've
I flatter you too much?
Yeah.
It's okay. It won't hurt you. Swami Hamsananda's devotion to her mantra is something I hold in my mind. She does mantra as she's falling asleep at night, which is something I very highly aspire to do. You told me.
Oh.
And I believe you. So and her testimony today when she talked about the initiation in the ecstasy that she had, having been initiated, and even having a written version of the mantra. Each one has something to show us. Parman Barcel, seeing his capacity for leadership, when our first ashram was in turmoil, he was so centered, so willing to take on enormous responsibility. It was a phenomenon. And someone who affected me a lot and influenced me a lot was the disciple and the attendant of Swami Chidananda Maharaj. So many of you remember Swami Chidanandaji, disciple of Master Shivananda, not of our own order, but an elderly man. He came to America maybe 4 or 5 times. And so we frequently had the opportunity of being around him and admiring him. He was very eloquent and very humorous and so wise. But for some reason, I fixated on his attendant, whose name was, at that time, Nataraj, and later had the name Vimalananda. And I was host to Chidananda and Vimalananda for 6 days in Los Angeles. And Swami Chidanandaji gave several talks, and I had introduced him and I introduced his attendant. And apparently, I gave more importance to the attendant than the guru. But and Chidananda was a little bit surprised at how this woman missed the mark. But the extraordinary thing is that Vimalananda completely, I think the right word is effaced. His needs were never visible. And the moment Swami Chidanandaji had a request or had a need of any kind, Vimalananda was spot on. He was right there. He was 100%. He seemed to have no care for himself. And I was so impressed by that. And it was when Swamiji came to America, there was a great, enlightened, elegant master. And then there was all of us, wild-eyed hippies, stumbling, blundering, completely clueless. Nobody in between. So very, very hard to know. So what does it look like being a disciple? What's it going to look like 5 years from now? Who do I model myself after? Of course, we tried to model ourselves after Swamiji, but it was a bit beyond our capacity. But Vimalananda was the extraordinary example. And he was the example that embodied Swamiji's teaching, selfless, serviceful, without concern for himself. So he was one of the great examples. Asokanandaji, 24 hours a day, I remember Asokanandaji because his disciplines are perfect. And I aspire to absorb a little bit of that capacity within myself. So yes, we each influence each other. And thank God for that. I wouldn't have made it 2 steps along this path but for our Sangha. Om Shanti.
Were there any times when you blundered in front of Swamiji?
Almost continuously. Oh, I'll tell you a funny thing that happened. Okay. Swami Hamsananda, she probably won't remember this, but we were together. It was our pre-Sanyas Initiation. It was at Yogaville West. It was 1973. There were 16 or 17 of us. It's very small.
14
of us.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Swamiji told us openly, I'm making this up. I'm creating a ceremony suitable for a pre-sannyas ceremony. And we had given him clean ironed clothes for him to hand over to us as part of the ceremony. And somehow my clothes were on top. So I was the first to come forward, receive the clothes. And I took them, and I was kneeling in front of Swamiji, and then he said, take some flowers and offer them to the altar. And the altar was a beautiful altar set up behind him. Do you remember what happened? She claims she doesn't remember. So I took the flowers and offered them, and they hit Swami Satchidananda right in the middle of his forehead. Okay. Now, this is a man who is never flummoxed. He's always poised, except this moment. This moment, he was caught completely off guard. He was blinking his eyes. And finally, he said, that's okay. Next student. So, but frankly, I'm a little bit proud of myself. I'm sorry, I embarrassed my guru, I embarrassed me. But my altar is that man. So that's one of the things. I also, when we got our robes, Swami Hamsananda is in a full-length robe. Mine is just to my knees tonight. But our first robes were all the way to the ankle. And there were a number of occasions when we were called up on stage for Swamiji to present his Swamis. And I invariably, going up the steps, I would step on the hem of my robe. Well, you can't move when you're standing on your own clothes. Oh, and I would do it in front of at least 500 people. It was so bad. So, yes, there were so many other blunders. very embarrassing. I'll tell you one, just one. I don't want to stay too long on this topic. Swamiji, among his disciples, was a small group, Raghavan, Bhagavan, and Raghavan's wife. And one of the two men had become very ill. And I was calling Swamiji to say, Swamiji, please pray. He's had to go to the hospital. Then a few days later, please pray. His situation is quite critical. And then, Swamiji, he's passed away. Please pray for his soul. So this went on 5 days a week, something like that. It was only after the man had passed that I found out I had the name wrong. Bhagavan, Raghavan. He had been praying for the wrong person the whole time. Can you imagine? That's the kind of blunder I carried off. He didn't scold me. That's the wonder of our Guru. I think he probably knew who needed his prayers all the time. Yeah. Yes, I don't want to stay long on this question. Let's see what else.
Do you have any examples of Swamiji's sense of humor?
Oh my. Yes. Swamiji had a fabulous sense of humor. And I have so many examples of it. I'll tell you one thing. It happened here at Yogaville. In the beginning, we were all crowded into one building, what we call LCC, Lotus Conference Center. And Swamiji gave satsang in the main room. I don't know what year it was. I believe it would have been 84, 85, around there. But some of our members of California were visiting. And when Swamiji left the satsang that evening, his attendant gave him the wrong shoes. Okay? So usually, you know, it was really crowded, and the shoes were sort of in a jumble. But Swamiji's shoes, when he came in with his attendant, she would put his shoes in a separate place. But when he goes out, his attendant may not be there, and everybody's eager to touch Swamiji's feet. Well, one of our friends from California had the right size shoes, and they were brand new. So whoever was there was delighted to have the opportunity to put shoes on Swamiji, and Swamiji wore them away. Well, the person whose shoes he wore was Reverend Rishi Shwai. And Rishi was leaving for the airport the next morning, and he could not find his shoes. So I don't know, somehow we came up with a pair of shoes for him to wear. He left. About a week later, a pair of shoes, his own shoes, arrived in the mail with a note from Swamiji saying, "This is the first time the Guru has walked in the footsteps of the disciple." He had the right words for every occasion. And he was mischievous. I told this story last week, but I'll tell it again in short version. There was a time when he was fascinated by the old-time cars with the big fins. I think they're from 1957. And we had located such a car near Bolinas. And after one of his talks in Bolinas, we had gone to look at the car to see if maybe it would be affordable. And we found the right address. And the driver went inside to find the owner, and he was gone quite a long time. So Swamiji was there, passenger in the back seat, myself and Divyananda. Driver had gone, but he had left the car running, idling. After a while, Divyananda are shocked to notice the car is rolling down the driveway. Uh-oh, we're looking at Swamiji's back of his head. What's going on? The car stops, then it rolls forward up the driveway. Yes, Swami Satchidananda was playing with the gear shift from the passenger seat. So we're sitting in the back giggling, and what happens is the driver comes back, sees his car with his guru rolling away. Oh my God, his face went white. But it didn't last long because Divyananda and I couldn't keep a straight face. He saw us laughing, and then he knew, oh, that guru playing with me. So, yeah, he always found words. I've never seen another soul like it. And I think it was a grace, some kind of divine grace, because how could he communicate to these nutty hippies, having come from a very conservative corner of India? How did he find a common ground and the right words to say to us? Carry on. Another question.
Okay. Have you felt Swamiji's presence since he left his body?
I do indeed. Actually, it was just weeks after he had left his body, and there was a satsang. And there was a momentary appearance. It might have been 1 second. But in Swamiji's lifetime, and this I shared about it last week also, when his body, full body, was 100% aligned with my body, not just for me, anybody, you get a little Shaktipat. You get a burst of divine energy and an upliftment. And that happened. Though he had left his body, he was standing by the piano. He was young, and he was standing full body, and I got a little bit of Shaktipat. That was the first. And then I dreamed about him, a very vivid dream, in which, in the dream, he had come back. It was perhaps 10 years after he'd left his body. But he had come back to check on things. And Premanjali had made appointments with just about all the senior members. So we each had our 2 to 5 minutes with Swamiji. Yeah, that was the dream. So when my 2 minutes came, Swamiji, again, he was a bit younger. He was in a green jacket. And I just brought something to his attention. Swamiji, I don't know if you realize that. And he said, no, good, that's great. You'll learn a lot. It was just a few sentences, but it gave me great reassurance. Oh, it was such a boon, such a gift to have that dream. But then he said, so sorry, Divyananda, Prem is taking me to the Apple store. So I need to be leaving now. And that was so typical of him. He loved nothing better than seeing the latest technology. So, okay, so there was those. There also was, some of you will remember when Swami Chidananda Maharaj was here, and it was a blessing of the Lotus Shrine. It might have been the year after Gurudevs left his body. I did not plan to go. I had guests. I had to book some flights. I had carved out this hour of time when I was going to take care of the flights. But it was an auditory appearance. Divyananda, go. Oh, Swamiji, I don't have time. Go. Okay. So I put on my good robe and I headed up to the ashram to catch a ride. But on the way I thought, I don't have to go. It was just a vision. No, I don't have to go. So I stopped off to use the computer and book that flight. But no sooner had I sat down and I thought, Divyananda, I think he meant it. You'd better go. So I went to the ceremony. Actually, nothing special happened at the ceremony. But that's just an example. For some reason, seems like he wanted me there. And look at this mind that at least for 5 minutes, I persuaded myself I didn't have to obey him. That's your Swami. Was that the last one?
Mm.
That was the last one? So Hamsananda, tell another one of your wonderful stories. You have 15 minutes.
Ask me a question.
Ask you a question?
Well,
What is the funniest thing you ever saw Swamiji do?
oh dear. You got another question?
Sure. Not coming up?
No.
It will come up.
I have a question for both of you.
Let's hear it.
What keeps you going no matter what?
What did he say?
What keeps us going no matter what? Oh, Parman,
No, that's a good
it's a
question.
really good question. I feel the blessing of this life is the most sacred, most precious treasure any soul could ever have. And to even live for 1 minute under the care of a guru, I can't lose sight of that. I'm sure that's the same for Hamsananda. I'm aware of the blessing that we have.
Are you through?
I'm through already.
No, I didn't mean it the way it sounded.
Oh, that's all right, Hamsananda.
But I didn't know if you were through. What was the question?
What keeps you going, Hamsananda? What keeps you going? Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's really discouraging.
No matter what.
Yeah.
As a sannyasi, as a spiritual seeker, as Gurudev's disciple, as a yoga practitioner, which one? Which one?
All of them, Hamsananda.
Do you say to keep, what keeps you keep going?
I think all of them.
Huh?
All of them. What keeps
Well,
you
I
going?
only have one. I have always thought that if someone ever thought being a sannyasi was difficult, I would say, I don't think sannyas life is difficult. I think life is difficult. Yeah. And it doesn't matter who you are or anything, what path you're on, or because everybody is on the same path. And know it or not, like it or not, going kicking or screaming, or not even aware there is spiritual life, or you're on a spiritual path. We're all on the same, we're doing the same thing. And so I don't think sannyas life is difficult. I think life is difficult. And somehow we made it difficult by our choices. Why it went wrong right away, the first 5 minutes you were in your first birth, you made the wrong choice. That's what I want to know. And I'll find out between births, or if and when I become enlightened. But I have to wait a little longer. But what keeps me going is, okay, because I don't want any more fear. And that's it. When I took sannyas, I didn't know what enlightenment was, self-realization, realization of the true self. I didn't know these things were new. But when I heard about it, I wanted that. I wanted to be like Gurudev, and whatever it took. And I think the idea is that you are tired enough of pain or nothing nothing works anymore. Somehow it's lifetime after lifetime. We all look the same, but your spiritual evolution is unique to you. And so you don't know where you might be on the path, how close you are to realization of the true self. I guess it comes just, you don't know. So I don't think about that anymore, but I think about, what do I think about? I think about, I just want to be a good person. I don't want to hurt anybody by my thought, word, or deed. And I haven't perfected that one. But it's not God realization anymore. It isn't wanting to have some sublime experience, which is a good thing. But no, just that my mind and my heart and my thought, word, and deed is very, very pure. And that's what I want. And I think the thirst is so great that I couldn't give up. I couldn't give up. And and there is, not from sublime experiences am I speaking, but I look around at everyone around me. So if I know you, having been in your presence, I will have admired you so much. I watch the people doing cleanup while I'm eating my lunch in Shivananda Hall. And I just see greatness in everyone. And I really do. I see greatness in everyone. And that's my joy. I don't take vacations. Well, I don't know who does anymore, but I'll go outside and I'll see the sky, which is never the same twice, and I'll say, oh, look at that. And so I have a 10-second vacation. So I just have a joy in what I see. So that's I don't know.
Yeah.
And it must be the grace of God. But I think we've worked very, very hard. Oh, and this, Parma, I know you've heard this, and I've said it probably every time I've given a talk forever. And I'll just say, and then it's your turn again. So get ready.
I'm ready.
So at satsang, Gurudev said, even to be in this room, the satsang hall, not to be vegetarian or practice meditation or do hatha yoga till you're blue in the face. Just to be in this room, you have to have done good works in many lifetimes. So that's it. That's we've earned our destiny. And it's incredible, isn't it? That we're on the same path. This is my path to God. Whatever you're going through, that's your path to God. And everything is for you to choose. This or that, this or that. Do I want? I used to say that Gurudev was saying to me, do you want gold or diamonds? Or do you want this? Do you want knowledge of the true self? Or are you willing to settle for gold and diamonds? So I think it's a lot of pain through many lifetimes. And that makes you, I give up. I want what he's got.
Well, I just read a line from Monica Vasagar, one of the Tamil poets. And he said, Lord, I've incarnated so many times. I've been a plant, I've been a rock, I've been an insect, an animal. I've suffered so many times as a human being. Finally, I found your feet. Please don't ever let me go. And I think Hamsananda, plus we're having a blast, aren't we? Why would we ever, oh my God. Being a Swami is a blast, Hamsananda.
Nandaji,
Yes.
do you realize that Danny, that yellow hand means that he has his hand up and he's
Danny, oh please, thank you so much, Lakshmi. Danny, let's hear from you.
Good evening.
Good
I
evening.
think Ardaman's question is a big one, and we're all hearing that. I've been following Swami Asokananda and his online teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, and he often mentions the burden of email and things that he has to find the will to get through. And I guess there's a certain charm in me hearing that, but we all need encouragement. We all also need to go within and find a gold mine of something that will keep our eye on the prize. It was the first thing that Swami Hamsananda recommended tonight from something she learned from Gurudev, and it reminded me of a quote by Mark Twain. I just briefly want to throw it out there because it's funny and it's probably true. And it's the kinds of things I've been jotting notes, what exactly Gurudev said, because these wisdoms, Swami Hamsananda mentioned that she decided just to get on with taking care of the swans, and then suddenly the burden was lifted. Mark Twain said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if your job is to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. And so I guess I wanted to say that, back to Paraman's question, and it is interesting to hear the Swami's perspective, but then you also counsel us. I've had excellent advice from Mataji, thank you very much, in time I needed it. And it is important for all of us to find the meaning and the will to go on.
Thank you, Danny. I'll remember that. Eat the big frog first. That was so fun. That is so cute. Mark Twain is so amazing. We just have 2 minutes left. Let's join our hearts, our souls in a few minutes of meditation. Shall we do that? Yeah, it's our love of this community, this Swami, these teachings that bring us all together. I'll chant Om just one time, and let's have a minute or 2 minutes of silence. Om. Sending out a beautiful positive energy to the entire world. Let's chant Loka Samasta. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Jai Sri Sakuru Maharaj Ki.
Jai.